Every breath you take is either building your reality or destroying it. You've been told that breath is automatic, involuntary, a background process your body handles while your mind gets on with the real work of living. But what if that was the greatest misunderstanding of your life? What if breathing isn't just a survival mechanism, but a sacred act of creation, not in theory, but in function, not poetic, but literal? Most people will take over 600 million breaths in their lifetime and never once realize what they're actually doing, not just oxygenating their body, but projecting their internal state out into the quantum field like a radio tower. Every shallow inhale is a message to the universe. Every anxious exhale is a distortion in the signal. And every moment you breathe without awareness is a missed opportunity to consciously shape what's being built around you. Because breath is not passive, it's not background, it's not neutral, it's power, and you've been giving it away without even noticing. You wake up and breathe, but you don't even notice it. You rush through your morning routine, already replaying yesterday's conversations or anticipating tomorrow's problems. You breathe in the car, in meetings, in queues, while scrolling, but you rarely feel it. Not really, not fully, and that's the point. Because the breath you're ignoring is the very force shaping the chaos you're trying to escape. Most people breathe 0 times a day without intention. That's 0 energetic signals unconsciously emitted into the field. Tiny transmissions coded with frustration, tension, insecurity, distraction, and the universe, indifferent and exact, reflects them back with startling precision. You feel stuck, not because you're unlucky, or unworthy, or broken, but because your internal state is constantly programming your external experience without your permission. And the breath is the keyboard, the interface. The invisible input shapes the visible output. You've been led to believe that if you just think positive, your life will change. You can override trauma, confusion, and misalignment with willpower and visualization alone. But the system doesn't respond to your thoughts. It responds to your frequency. And your frequency is being dictated in real time by how you breathe. Because breath isn't neutral. It's electric. It's magnetic. It's an instruction. And the universe is listening with perfect attention. When you breathe shallowly, you signal survival. When you hold your breath unconsciously, you broadcast fear. When your breath is erratic, so is your field. And when your field is chaotic, it can't organize reality in your favor. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is determined by how you occupy your own internal space. Breath is not just the bridge between life and death. It's the bridge between you and everything else. It carries your essence into the field and draws matching frequencies back. Most people try to change their circumstances from the outside in. They chase success, try to fix their bodies, rearrange their relationships, move cities, start over again and again, but they carry the same breath with them, the same stress signals, the same fragmented inhale, the same unspoken grief held in the chest, and so nothing really changes. Because the scenery shifts, but the frequency doesn't. Breath is the root, and if you ignore the root, the fruit will always taste the same. You weren't born breathing this way. You learned it. You absorbed the tension in your environment and mimicked it. You inhaled chaos as a child, and it became your rhythm. Nobody taught you to breathe with reverence, with presence, with power, because they didn't know either. They were breathing to survive, and so were you. But survival breath and creation breath are two different languages, and the universe only responds to one of them with precision. Some truths are too suppressed for YouTube. That's why we created the free newsletter, Insights Academy, where we share what can't be said here. Join now and receive a limited-time copy of the Kybalion, link in the description. The breath you take in this very moment is a chance to interrupt the old script, to anchor a new signal, to reclaim authorship over the energy you emit and the life that responds. But it begins with awareness, not control, not technique, just awareness. Noticing the breath you've been missing, and in doing so, waking up to the one thing that's always been waiting for you, your own power. Science has finally caught up to what mystics and yogis have been saying for centuries. You don't just exist inside your body, you extend far beyond it. The space around you isn't empty, it's alive, and your breath is the invisible conductor orchestrating how it behaves. Modern research from institutions like HeartMath has confirmed what ancient traditions have long intuited. The heart generates an electromagnetic field that stretches up to 8 feet beyond your body in every direction. But what most people don't realize is that your breath is the dial, the regulator, that determines whether that field is harmonious or chaotic, magnetic or repelling, creative or self-sabotaging. When your breath is shallow, erratic, or disconnected from awareness, your electromagnetic field becomes fragmented. And this fragmentation creates distortion in your mood, your focus, your relationships, your luck. You start misreading situations, drawing in conflict, repelling opportunities without even realizing it. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because the field around you is vibrating with the static of internal noise. Your breath is either aligning the energy around you or disorganizing it. But here's the miracle. Coherence can be restored in seconds, through breath. Not forceful breath, not performative breath, but rhythmic, heart, connected, conscious breath. When you drop into a calm, intentional rhythm, even just for a few minutes, the heart and brain begin to sync. And when they sync, your whole system broadcasts a new frequency. Calm replaces chaos. Clarity dissolves confusion. Life begins to flow differently, not because you changed your circumstances, but because you tuned your signal. Imagine walking into a room where someone is truly present. You feel it, not because they said anything special, but because their field speaks before their mouth does. Their coherence changes the air around them. You relax in their presence. You feel more yourself. That's not charisma. That's electromagnetic alignment, and it's available to everyone. But most people are too distracted, too anxious, too externally focused to feel their own field, let alone master it. The breath is the shortcut back. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment for threats. But the part no one tells you is this: it's also scanning you. When your breath is erratic, your body assumes danger. When your breath is smooth and deep, your body assumes safety. And when your body feels safe, everything changes. Blood flows to the brain, intuition sharpens, digestion restores, your voice steadies, your presence deepens. You become a walking invitation to peace, and the world responds accordingly. There's a reason ancient initiates guarded this knowledge. Not because it's complicated, but because it's potent. The breath is a key to sovereign energetic architecture, your ability to design the field around you through the state within you. This is where true manifestation begins, not in vision boards or mantras, but in the breath-to-breath decisions you make about how you carry yourself in space. You don't need to become a master overnight. You only need to start noticing what you've been ignoring, because your life is always mirroring your breath. The question is, what have you been broadcasting? There's something ancient inside you, something that has never flinched, never aged, never changed. It's the part of you that watches, not judges, not reacts, simply observes. You've felt it in moments of stillness, during late-night silence, or just after waking, before your mind starts racing. That presence is not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your body. It's the observer, and when you breathe with awareness, not force, not control, but presence, that observer wakes up. This is more than metaphor. It's physics. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect is the principle that the act of observation alters the outcome of what's being observed. Particles behave differently when they're being watched. Reality shifts under the gaze of consciousness. That isn't just some abstract lab result, it's the essence of your power. Because when you become aware of your breath, you're not just noticing air move through your body, you're activating a force that reshapes the very fabric of your experience. You've lived most of your life inside the noise. Emotions rise and fall, thoughts bombard you, external chaos presses in, and you've mistaken that chaos for who you are. But you are not the storm. You are the space it moves through. You are not the panic. You are the presence that feels it. You are not the thought, you are the witness behind it, and breath is the doorway back to that truth. Every time you observe your breath without trying to change it, something remarkable happens. You stop identifying with the noise. You stop gripping the wheel of control. You return to the silent center, the eye of the storm, where everything slows down and awareness becomes sharp, almost electric. In this state, you're no longer reacting to life. You're watching it. And from that place, something strange and beautiful starts to unfold. Reality begins to organize itself around your stillness. That's because the observer isn't passive. It's not numb detachment or spiritual bypassing. It's the most powerful stance you can take. Presence without attachment. Awareness without grasping. It's what all mystical traditions have hinted at beneath layers of metaphor. The Buddhists call it non-attachment. The Hermetics call it mental transmutation. Quantum scientists call it probabilistic collapse. But the principle is the same. By witnessing, you're influencing, not with effort, but with presence. This is why spiritual teachings always return to breath. Not because it's trendy or relaxing, but because it anchors you into the present moment, where the observer lives. And the present is the only place reality can be changed. You don't shift timelines by obsessing over the future or replaying the past. You shift them by coming so deeply into now that the signal of your presence overrides all previous patterns. The observer breath doesn't demand anything. It doesn't ask you to fix yourself or suppress your feelings or recite affirmations you don't believe. It asks only this: can you sit with yourself without turning away? Can you witness what is, without needing it to be different? Because in doing so, something miraculous happens. The tension starts to dissolve. The fear loses its grip. And you realize, maybe for the first time, that the reality you thought you had to fight was always waiting for you to simply notice. This is not passivity. This is the birthplace of power. You've been trying to force the external when the real shift begins internally. The observer doesn't need to hustle or manifest harder or chant louder. It watches, and in watching, it changes what is watched. This is the subtle art of spiritual sovereignty, and breath is how you begin. There is a moment in your breath that holds more power than hours of planning, effort, or control. It's not the inhale, not the exhale. It's what lives between them, the stillness, the pause, the brief sliver of nothingness, where your body doesn't move and the mind falls away. Most people move through it without noticing, as if it's just a transition between the two important parts. But what if that nothing is the most potent space of all? That pause, usually less than half a second, is the place where form and formlessness meet. It's the silence before creation, the blink before a thought becomes a choice, the calm before the quantum responds. It's not just a void, it's a womb. And like all sacred wombs, it holds possibility in its most raw, undisturbed state. In that micro gap of breath, you aren't the story you've been telling, the identity you've been wearing, or the noise of the world. You are pure presence, and from there reality listens differently. This isn't about doing, it's about being. The quantum field, the field of infinite potential, does not respond to effort, volume, or desperation. It responds to coherence. It responds to intention that comes from the stillness beneath the noise. And the only way to access that stillness, to touch that timeless state without effort, is to breathe and feel the pause. Not rush through it, not avoid it, but rest in it, even for a moment. In that moment, you have no past, no future, just presence. And in that presence, there is no momentum dragging you into unconscious habits, no pressure to react, no anxiety about what's coming. It's just space. And in space, choice is born. Not reaction, but conscious, grounded, aligned choice. The pause is where the pattern breaks, where you get to say, this time, I choose differently. And the field, the energy around you, feels that. It recalibrates in real time. Why does this matter? Because most people live their entire lives reacting to thoughts, to news, to emotions, to people, and in doing so, they reinforce the same frequency day after day. Breathe, react, repeat. The loop never stops. But when you start to live from the pause, from the observer, you disrupt the pattern. You send a new signal into the field. You stop broadcasting fear and begin to radiate clarity, stability, and power. And that changes what comes back to you. This isn't esoteric theory. It's measurable. When the body enters this brief state of inner stillness, heart rate slows, cortisol drops, brainwaves shift into harmony, and over time, the nervous system learns that safety isn't out there, in circumstances or control. It's here, in the pause, always available, always untouched. This is the essence of resilience. It's not about being hard. It's about being still in the center of the storm. If you've ever felt like you're stuck in a life you didn't choose, or reacting to a reality that feels out of sync with who you really are, this is your way out. Not through force, but through awareness. Not by changing the breath itself, but by dropping into the spaces between. These are the hinges of transformation. Not dramatic, not loud, but steady, subtle, and real. In a world obsessed with speed, the quantum pause reminds you that power is found in presence, not pace. That alignment matters more than control. And that sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is nothing at all. Just be. Just notice. Just allow. Because in that space, that sacred pause, you stop chasing life and start shaping it. Your body is not a machine. It is not a tool to be pushed harder, worked longer, or sculpted to fit some image you were sold by culture. Your body is a temple, a living, breathing sanctuary. And like any sacred space, it holds history. Not just physical memory, but emotional imprints, energetic scars, silent echoes of everything you've suppressed, endured, or ignored. And here's the truth. Most people walk through life disconnected from that temple, trying to build a new life while ignoring the foundation it rests on. Every breath you take is an invitation to return home, but not just to the surface of your body, to the hidden chambers beneath. You know them. The places where emotion tightens your chest without warning, where old pain echoes in your gut, where your shoulders carry a weight you've never truly named. These aren't random. They are messages, and breath is the key to decoding them. Most people try to escape these sensations. They distract, they numb, they overwork, overthink, overconsume, because to sit with what's inside feels unbearable. But what if that discomfort isn't a problem, but a portal? What if breath isn't just a tool for calm, but a sacred chisel that carves space into places long sealed shut? Conscious breathwork isn't about doing it right. It's about meeting what you've been avoiding. It's about softening into the places that feel rigid, allowing breath to move where energy hasn't flowed in years. Think of it like opening doors in a house you've forgotten you live in. Some rooms are filled with dust, old memories, shame, grief. Others pulse with energy, creativity, vision, but they've been locked behind years of survival mode, and all of them are waiting. This is where transformation really begins, not with more information, not with mindset hacks, but with embodiment. Because until you clear the blocks within, you're transmitting confusion without. Your outer world mirrors your inner alignment, and if the temple within is cluttered, chaotic, and shut down, your external reality will reflect that disorder. But something extraordinary happens when you begin to breathe into those inner spaces. The static clears. The emotional debris lifts. You begin to feel more you, not because you added anything, but because you finally removed what wasn't yours to carry. Breath becomes a broom, sweeping out the lies you inhaled in childhood, the tension you picked up from trauma, the fear you absorbed from culture. You begin to remember your natural rhythm, and in doing so, the temple restores itself. This is more than emotional healing, it's energetic reclamation. As you breathe, you're not just processing, you're reclaiming space. You're saying, this is mine now, my body, my breath, my presence. And when you claim the temple, you also claim the power that was trapped within it. And it's not just about what you feel, it's about what others feel from you. When you restore coherence in your body, your field becomes magnetic. People feel the difference. Life feels the difference. You're no longer pushing reality into alignment. It starts arranging itself around your frequency. Because sacred energy is undeniable. You don't have to prove it. You just have to embody it. There's a reason temples are quiet, grounded, and revered. That's the energy your breath can restore within you. Not just in moments of stillness, but in how you walk, speak, love, create. This is the breath of the sovereign. The breath of someone who no longer chases freedom outside, but anchors it within. So breathe like someone clearing sacred ground, like someone unlocking a forgotten cathedral inside themselves. Because your body isn't just holding you, it's holding your power, and your breath is the only key that can set it free. The world taught you that control is power, that if you could just organize every detail, manage every variable, and stay one step ahead of every possible outcome, you'd be safe. That your future depends on planning, your worth depends on productivity, and your value is proven by how much you can carry without breaking. And so you push, harder, faster, longer, trying to grip life with both hands before it slips away. But here's the brutal truth. Control is the great illusion. It's a cage disguised as competence, and it's killing your ability to truly live. Because the truth is, the more you try to control life, the more disconnected you become from it. You stop feeling, you stop listening, you stop flowing. You move from moment to moment like a clenched fist, and that tension bleeds into everything: your breath, your relationships, your health, your sense of purpose. And still, nothing feels stable. Because control doesn't create safety, alignment does. Alignment is what happens when you stop trying to force the river and instead become the current itself. When your breath slows, your nervous system calms, and your choices begin to emerge from a deeper intelligence than logic or fear. In this space, you don't have to manipulate life. You synchronize with it. You become a tuning fork, and reality begins to echo your frequency. This is the secret ancient traditions have always whispered, that the real power isn't in domination but in coherence, and your breath is the bridge. When you breathe in a way that honors the natural rhythm of your body, you align your internal systems. Your heart, your brain, your gut all begin to communicate in harmony. That inner harmony sends a signal to your body that you are safe, a signal to the field around you that you are ready, and the world responds. You've been taught to hustle, to grind, to outwork and outperform, but has it ever truly satisfied you? Has it ever given you lasting peace, or just a momentary high followed by exhaustion and the next goal to chase? That's because power obtained through force requires constant maintenance, but power obtained through alignment becomes self-sustaining. It's not a fire you have to feed, it's a flame that fuels you. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to control everything, life starts moving in your favor. Opportunities arrive without struggle. Relationships deepen. Creative ideas flow. Not because you forced them, but because you finally created the internal space for them to land. Your breath became the invitation. Your coherence became the magnet. Alignment isn't passive. It's not apathy. It's an active surrender to your own intelligence, the part of you that lives beneath the noise, the narratives, the conditioning. When you stop reacting and start responding from that place, you become unshakable. Chaos might swirl around you, but inside, you're still. You become like the eye of a storm, untouched, unwavering, profoundly aware. This shift is subtle, but it's seismic. It's the moment you stop asking, "How do I fix everything?" and start asking, "What within me needs to come into alignment?" That one question changes your trajectory. Because now, instead of fighting the current, you are guiding your vessel with presence, with breath, with trust. And no, it doesn't mean everything will be easy, but it does mean you'll meet every challenge from your center instead of your fear. And when that happens, even the hardest moments become catalysts, not catastrophes. In the world's eyes, alignment might look like stillness, but in truth, it's your most powerful stance. It's the silent strength that bends reality. Because when you breathe with awareness, when you live from coherence, you don't chase life, you become its architect. Everyone's trying to change their life. They journal affirmations. They visualize the dream. They repeat mantras and listen to motivational speakers telling them they can do anything. And yet, months go by and not much shifts. The same patterns return. The same emotional loops replay. The same outcomes manifest, wrapped in different disguises. So what's going wrong? Why is it that no matter how hard people try to think positive, their external world doesn't seem to catch up? Because intention without embodiment is just noise. Because thinking isn't creating, feeling is. And breath is the gateway between the two. Most people don't fail to change because they lack belief. They fail to change because they never anchor their intention into the body. It floats above their life like a dream, never landing, never grounding, because the system that governs their reality, their nervous system, is still wired for survival, fear, and self-protection. And that system isn't moved by words. It's moved by frequency. This is why the sacred shift begins with breath. Not just any breath, but conscious breath. Breath that brings awareness into the body and coherence into the field. Because the moment you begin to breathe with intention, something profound happens. You're no longer just a person hoping for change. You become a transmitter of change. Your entire electromagnetic field begins to vibrate differently, and the field around you responds, not to your wishful thinking, but to your embodied signal. You can't fake this. You can't shortcut it. You can't mentally override years of dysregulation and emotional suppression with a single vision board. You have to go deeper. You have to build a bridge between the mind and the body, between thought and energy, and that bridge is breath. Take the quantum pause, that still space between the inhale and the exhale. It seems like nothing, just a moment, but it's everything. It's the womb of creation. It's where your mind quiets just long enough for something deeper to emerge. It's the 0 point, the place where the old dissolves and the new begins to form. And the more you return to it, the more you begin to reshape your internal architecture, not with effort, but with presence. In this space, you no longer try to control the outcome. You attune yourself to it. You breathe it in. You feel it in your cells. Your heart rate slows. Your brainwaves shift. And what you want begins to align with who you are. This is not manifestation as wishful thinking. This is manifestation as embodied resonance. This is where the 4-step sacred breath protocol comes in. It's not a ritual for ritual's sake. It's a framework for coherence, a way to move from reactivity to creation, from chaos to clarity. And once learned, it's something you can return to any moment, any time, no matter where you are. Not to escape reality, but to reshape it, one breath at a time. Because here's the truth. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you breathe, what you feel, what you embody. That's the signal. That's the shift. And when you master that signal, life starts to rearrange itself in ways that no planner, no vision board, no to-do list ever could. The sacred shift isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been, beneath the layers of programming and performance. It's about shedding the noise and returning to the center, the quiet, powerful place inside of you that knows exactly what to do. Not because it's trying to control life, but because it's aligned with it. And once you've made that shift, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. You'll realize that real power was never in how loud you could be, or how hard you could push. It was always in how still you could become. Because from that stillness, you don't just observe the world, you reshape it. We've been sold a lie. That power looks like hustle. That transformation requires struggle. That in order to create the life you want, you have to grind, sacrifice, and relentlessly push. But if that were true, wouldn't more people be free by now? Wouldn't burnout be a myth instead of the norm? The truth is, we've confused motion with meaning. We've mistaken noise for impact. And in doing so, we've silenced the most potent force available to us. Stillness. Stillness isn't passive. It's the most active recalibration there is. It's the place where you stop reacting long enough to see, long enough to hear the truth beneath the noise. and long enough to realize that your entire external world has been echoing back the chaos you've been breathing out unconsciously, because your reality doesn't need more effort, it needs more alignment. That's the real secret. Alignment creates momentum without force. When you're aligned, you don't chase, you attract. You don't push, you allow. You don't hustle, you harmonize. You become like the eye of a storm, still, centered, untouched by the spinning chaos around you. And from that place, you don't just move through life. Life moves around you. Circumstances begin to bend. Opportunities emerge. People feel drawn to you without knowing why. That's not coincidence. That's field intelligence, responding to internal coherence. But how do you access this alignment when everything in your world has conditioned you to run? The answer is deceptively simple. Through the observer breath. This isn't about changing your breath, forcing calm, or performing peace. It's about witnessing, becoming the one who watches without judgment, the one who notices the breath without trying to improve it. And in that noticing, something profound happens. You become the observer, not the reactor, not the struggler, not the identity, but the quiet presence behind it all. And from this presence, a new kind of power emerges. Not the kind you wield over others, but the kind that radiates from within. It's the kind of power that can't be taken away, because it doesn't depend on outcomes. It's rooted in being, not doing. And this is where your breath becomes a revolution, because every inhale becomes an act of self-return, and every exhale becomes a clearing of old scripts you never chose. This isn't just about finding peace. It's about becoming untouchable in a world that profits off your fear. And the most threatening thing to a system built on fear and division is a human being who knows how to stay centered, no matter what. Because they can't be manipulated. They can't be baited into reactivity. They can't be sold an identity based on lack. That's the kind of person you're becoming, one breath at a time, not by striving, but by softening, not by resisting the world, but by aligning so deeply that the world has no choice but to meet you there. Now is the time to remember that you were never meant to live on the edge of your nervous system, reacting to the next emergency, the next notification, the next external drama. You were meant to live from your center, rooted, awake, and breathing, with intention. If you've made it this far, you already know the truth. The system doesn't want you still. It wants you chasing, consuming, comparing. But stillness is your rebellion. It's how you reclaim the self that was buried beneath noise. It's how you move from being shaped by reality to shaping it. You can't afford not to align anymore. The cost of staying out of sync is too high. And the moment you shift, reality follows. Here's the truth most will never realize. The world isn't happening to you, it's responding to you. Not to your words, not to your goals, not to your plans, but to the frequency you breathe out every moment. That frequency isn't just energy, it's information, a broadcast, and it's being transmitted whether you're aware of it or not. For most, that signal is chaotic, shaped by years of unconscious survival, emotional wounds, and borrowed beliefs. So reality reflects that back, distorted, fragmented, restless. But when you start breathing with awareness, not to control, but to witness, the distortion begins to dissolve. Clarity returns, and the world begins to shape itself around a new signal, one rooted not in fear or resistance, but in coherence. This isn't just an upgrade in your wellness routine. It's a shift in your very identity. Because once you start living from the breath, from the observer within the breath, you no longer operate as the reactive mind. You become something deeper, the architect, the one who builds not from circumstance but from presence, from alignment, from truth. And in that shift, something sacred happens. Effort becomes irrelevant. You realize the most profound changes in life don't come from doing more, but from being more present, more still, more intentional. From that space, you begin to make decisions that aren't based on lack or fear, but on resonance. You stop chasing what you were never meant to hold, and you start attracting what was always meant to find you. Your breath becomes your compass, Not in the poetic sense, in the practical. When the mind is confused, the breath tells the truth. When you're out of alignment, it becomes shallow, strained, disconnected. When you return to presence, it becomes smooth, slow, deep, not because you're forcing it, but because you're finally listening. The observer within you has taken the seat, and reality adjusts accordingly. You'll start to see the subtle shifts. Conversations change, relationships evolve, your perception clears, the right people show up, synchronicities increase. You're not creating from a vision board anymore. You're creating from a coherent field, from embodied presence. That's the difference between manifestation and alignment. Manifestation is often trying to get something. Alignment is becoming the frequency that naturally attracts it. One is reaching, the other is returning. And that return is sacred, because the world doesn't need more people chasing the next thing. It needs more people anchored in the present moment, breathing with intention, shaping reality from within. It needs more humans who remember that power doesn't come from controlling life, but from syncing with it, breath by breath, pause by pause, moment by moment. You don't have to force the world to change anymore. You just have to change the signal you're sending into it. And that starts inside, in your breath, in your stillness, in the space between thoughts where possibility lives. The more you live from that space, the more reality reorganizes around your inner coherence. This is how we reclaim our power, not by shouting louder, not by fighting harder, but by breathing deeper, by remembering that stillness is not weakness. It is the field from which all strength emerges. The pause between inhale and exhale isn't empty. It's the womb of creation. It's where you stop being a product of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. So the next time you find yourself spiraling, trying to fix, trying to push, trying to prove, pause. Close your eyes. Feel your breath. Remember who you are. You're not your fear. You're not your story. You are the observer behind it all. And from that seat, you shape everything. If you've made it here, then you already know you can't go back to sleep. Not now. Not after this. And if you're serious about stepping deeper into this work, join our free newsletter, Insights Academy. There's a level of truth we can't fully share here, but it's all waiting there. You'll also receive a digital copy of the Kabbalion, an ancient hermetic manual for inner alchemy, free for a limited time. The link is in the description. Don't let this moment pass you by. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting. I understood it.